to say it bluntly, I think some of them are lying. I think some of them actually are building bunkers right now. Let's just say it. They're building bunkers, and they simultaneously say, there's all these amazing things we're going to get. This is essentially the last mistake we ever get to make. So let's not make it.
The reason it's bad is because of the way society is organized, so that Musk will get richer and a lot of people get unemployed, and Musk won't care. I'm using Musk as a sort of stand-in. That's not on AI, that's on how we organize society.
These are taken on. The only thing that makes back the amount of money these companies have taken on is to replace all human economic labor, to take over the $50 trillion labor economy. That is the price. It's artificial.
In democracy, where ultimately, the ordinary person has a certain amount of leverage because they're contributing to the economy. If that leverage goes away, then it's hard to make democracy. It's harder to make democracy.
The man who runs Anthropic went on CNN and said the quiet part. If ordinary people stop contributing to the economy, they lose their leverage. And without leverage, he said, democracies get harder to run. That is the chief executive of an AI company. Describing his own product, the number that explains why he cannot stop is $50 trillion. That is what the world pays human beings to work every year. It is also the only figure large enough to pay back what these companies have borrowed. Your job is not the target, your leverage is. Start with what you have been told. Every few months, someone who runs an AI lab sits in front of a camera and gives the same answer. The jobs will change. New ones will appear. It has always worked out before. Here is Sam Altman giving that answer to Bloomberg.
Dramatically cheaper, dramatically more accessible. That does more to help poor people than rich people, frankly. I think there will be way more jobs on the other side of this technological revolution. I'm not a believer that this is the end of work at all.
Way more jobs, not the end of work at all. It is a comfortable answer, and it comes with 2 centuries of receipts behind it. Most people used to farm. Then the tractor arrived, and the farmer's grandchildren became something else. Lamplighter, switchboard operator, bank teller, every one of those died, and the world still got richer. So the argument is simple. Relax. This is just the next tractor. The trouble is that the people standing closest to the machine have stopped making that argument. The chief executive of Anthropic went on television and said something no AI executive is supposed to say, that his own technology could erase half of all entry-level white-collar jobs within 5 years and drive unemployment to somewhere between 10 and 20%. He was not describing a competitor, he was describing the thing his own company sells. Asked whether people would adapt the way they always have, he did not say no. He said something worse.
But I think what is striking to me about this AI boom is that it's bigger and it's broader and it's moving faster than anything has before. And so compared to previous technology changes, I'm a little bit more worried about the labor impact simply because it's happening so fast that yes, people will adapt, but they may not adapt fast enough. And so they're
Not that adaptation is impossible, that it might not arrive in time. Speed is the entire argument. The tractor took the better part of a century to finish the farms. He is talking about the professional class in single digits, which raises the obvious question. Why would he say any of this out loud?
And yes, there may be problems, but, writ large, this is a fantastic thing.
Yeah, I mean, I think the reason I'm raising the alarm is that I think others haven't as much, and I think someone needs to say it. To be clear, and I recognize it's always a difficult balance, right?
Then the interviewer read him his own forecast back to him on air.
Let me just say, because you've previously in the past said you've described a future where cancer is cured, the economy grows at 10% a year, the budget is balanced, and 20% of people don't have jobs.
That's exactly what I was getting to, right? Where I agree with all the positive potential. I think that isn't wrong.
Cancer cured, 10% growth, a balanced budget, and 1 adult in 5 with nothing to do. He did not take it back. He said the optimism about people adapting was the part that was wrong. To understand why none of this gets slowed down, stop reading the mission statements and open the balance sheet. Tristan Harris spent a decade warning what social media would do to teenagers, back when that still sounded dramatic. He now spends his time on this, and he makes the case the way an accountant would.
Automation is going to happen. But the goal of these companies is not to augment human work. This is so critical for people to get. You heard J.D. Vance say in the speech when he first came into office at the first AI summit in France, And he said, AI will augment the American worker. It's going to support workers to be more productive. But what is the business model of OpenAI and Anthropic and these other companies? If we're again using this Charlie Munger incentive framework to predict their choices, like what is their business model? And people say, oh, okay, there I am using ChatGPT. What's their business model? How do they make money? Oh, I pay them $20 a month for the subscription. That must be how they're going to make money. But that's actually not what it is, because the $20 a month, if everybody paid it, that would not make up all the money in debt that they've taken on as a company. Right. It wouldn't work. Okay, so that's out. So what's the next one? What about advertising? Let's do the Google thing. Let's do mass advertising for all these AI models embedded in the results. We're going to have, this is going to be the new search. Search is one of the most profitable business models in the world. Maybe that will do it, but that doesn't also make back the amount of money these companies have taken on. The only thing that makes back the amount of money these companies have taken on is to replace all human economic labor, to take over the $50 trillion labor economy. That is the price. It's artificial.
Run the arithmetic yourself. $20 a month from everybody does not cover the debt. Advertising does not cover it. Search is one of the most profitable inventions in commercial history, and it still does not cover it. There is exactly one revenue line on this planet big enough. Everything the world pays human beings to work, roughly $50 trillion a year, which means the product was never a tool that helps you work faster. The product is the work. If that sounds abstract, here is what it already looks like on the ground in Los Angeles.
The better system. Yeah. One of the most popular jobs, actually we're in LA right now, and one of the most popular jobs in LA that was covered in the LA Times recently, I'm sure you saw the story, they call them arm farms.
No, I didn't see that.
And so this is basically someone straps a GoPro to their top of their head, and then they just fold laundry or do tasks with their hands.
Oh, so the robots are learning how to do that?
That's right. So essentially the number one job in the world will be training our replacement. So essentially we all have the job of coffin builders. We're essentially, our number one job is we're in the coffin making industry to replace us with AIs that will do that job more effectively and for cheaper.
People are paid by the hour to wear a camera and fold laundry, not to fold the laundry, to show a machine how it is done. Harris has a name for that industry, and it is not a gentle one. The retraining answer assumes there is somewhere left to retrain to. At the moment, the growth job is teaching your own replacement. There is a known pattern for what happens when a country's wealth stops passing through its people.
Because I think it's really critical. So the idea is there's something in economics called the resource curse. So if you're Libya, Congo, South Sudan, Venezuela, you first discover this resource. Maybe it's diamonds, maybe it's oil, maybe it's rare minerals. And that's a blessing. And you're like, oh my God, we're going to get all this GDP growth and we're going to get this prosperity. But what happens is if you don't have the appropriate institutions and sort of social fabric and investments of people, suddenly, let's say 70% of your GDP is coming from mining that resource. Yeah. And now in a government, they have this choice when they've got money coming in. Do I invest more into the extraction of that resource, or do I invest into my people who have nothing to do with the GDP now?
Yeah.
And the answer is like, I'm going to invest in the resource.
Oil, diamonds, cobalt. On paper, it is a windfall, and for a while, the numbers look wonderful. But the government's income no longer travels through its citizens on the way in. So the rational move, every single budget year, is to spend on the wells and not on the schools. That is the resource curse, and you can point to it on a map. Two researchers, Luke Drago and Rudolf Laine, took the same mechanism and aimed it at artificial intelligence.
It's an example of trying to beat this. So there is a parallel to the resource curse that, again, the authors Luke Drago and Rudolf Laine wrote about called the intelligence curse. So what happens, and this is not that hypothetical, where a couple years from now, much of the GDP growth coming in this country is coming from AI. Let's say like 50% or 70% is coming from AI. Do I have any incentive to invest in the education, healthcare, childcare, development, safety of my people? No. Right. And the companies don't need you for their labor anymore, so your bargaining power went away. And the governments don't need you for tax revenue because that's not where they're getting the GDP growth. So it's not just that you aren't investing in your people, it's that your people lose political power.
Read that again, because it is not really a story about unemployment. Your employer needs your labor. That is the only reason you can ask for a raise. Your government needs your taxes. That is the only reason it has to listen to you at all. Those are transactions. They are what your vote has always been secured against. Remove the labor and remove the tax base, and on paper, nothing changes. You keep the vote. You just stop being expensive to ignore. And here's the part that should stop you. That argument did not come from a critic of the industry.
You know, in terms of inequality, I'm worried about this. You know, there's an inherent social contract in democracy where ultimately, you know, the ordinary person has a certain amount of leverage because they're contributing to the economy. If that leverage goes away, then it's hard to make democracy. It's harder to make democracies work, and it's harder to prevent concentration of power. And so, you know, we need to make sure that the ordinary person maintains economic leverage and has a way to make a living, or our society, our social contract won't work. And that's why I think it's important.
The man selling the technology and the man warning about it reached the same sentence from opposite directions. One of them has every commercial reason on earth to say something more comforting. Geoffrey Hinton built the mathematics all of this runs on. He puts the blame somewhere specific.
We're concerned about the race to become dominant.
Yes, that's the problem. They are much more concerned about the race. They should be much more concerned about whether humanity will survive it. Also whether society will survive it if we get massive unemployment. There's one piece of good news, which is all the...
Not the machine. The way we have arranged everything around it. Harris ends on a piece of history about hiring help you cannot dismiss.
Weakened, and they were getting attacked from the Scots and the Picts in the north, basically, you know, prehistorical Scotland and Ireland, and those civilizations, and they were very weak. And they said, what are we going to do? Well, they had this idea. Well, why don't we go off and hire this badass group of mercenaries called the Saxons? Because those Saxons are super powerful. And if we get the Saxons to fight our wars for us, then we'll win.
Right.
And of course, we know the history of how that went. We got the Anglo-Saxon Empire, except in this metaphor, AI is the Saxons. Except we won't get a merger between the human AI empire. We will get the AI empire.
This makes me think of all these guys.
Post-Roman Britain was weak and under attack, so it hired Saxon mercenaries to win a war it could not win alone. The Saxons won it. Then they stayed. The country ended up carrying their name. Nobody was conquered in the ordinary sense. The invitation was voluntary, and the terms looked good at the time. That is the shape of this risk, not a machine that turns on you one morning, a machine you keep choosing right up until the people who own it stop needing anyone else. None of this is a prophecy. It is an incentive structure, and those get rewritten all the time.
We're going to get new cancer drugs, new material science, new antibiotics at the same time that you get mass disempowerment of regular people. And you're going to have, you know, 8 soon-to-be trillionaires hoard all of the wealth, and there's not going to be much left for regular people unless we actively lock in a political infrastructure that says that we want to create the intelligence dividend, not the intelligence curse, kind of like what Norway did with the Sovereign Wealth Fund.
Right.
Alaska. Norway found oil and wrote the rules before the money landed. The fund now holds well over $1 trillion in everyone's name. Alaska sends every resident a check each year. Same principle, smaller scale. The mechanism is not exotic. Somebody has to decide the output belongs to more than 8 people and decide it before the money arrives rather than after. Right now, nobody is writing that rule because nobody has to. The men building this told you what they're building. On television, on the record, in full sentences. The bunkers are not the story. The bunkers are just the part that photographs well. The story is that your leverage was the product and the sale is already underway.